with no regard for human life.
Deshaun Jackson gets a block. Are you kidding?
And a steal. Miller retreats to the three-point line and hits again.
Marcelo! Oh, you beauty! What a headshot! What a head!
Welcome to the No Regard podcast. I'm Nathan Blakely.
I'm Marcelo Lucha.
Alright, big week this week, Marcelo, in sports.
Yeah.
Two of our favourite sports actually getting pretty intense with some finals matchup nearing the end of the season, actually.
Yeah.
So do you want to hop straight in on
Champions League? Let's hit Champions League first. So, you know what? Let's talk about Bayern and Barcelona first. What were your reactions to the match?
I just want to say it in a few words. The second coming of the Messiah. Messi, it was, to be honest, a very cagey, sort of tense match for probably the first 75 minutes, would you say? It was very sort of playing off each other. Like, obviously, Barca got more shots on goal, but it was still, you didn't know if the deadlock would be broken going into the second leg, which would have been tough for Barca if that had been the case. But I tell you what, some of the most magical goals in a UCL match I've seen for a while, like in terms of the weight of the match and everything else. Like, Messi just came through big in this match.
Right, it was clutch. It was just a clutch performance. And as you said, 75 minutes in, right, it looked like Bayern could have stolen a draw.
Exactly.
And you can't forget as well, Lewandowski missed a sitter. I mean, it was a cross on goal, I'm not sure who it was, and he just slipped, didn't get the finish on an open goal.
Look, mate, from the scale of Russell Westbrook to maybe Robin, like, you got to really kind of figure out how good you are at playing with a mask and with a facial injury. Like, it
that
is
basketball reference, though.
Yeah, mate. So sometimes you can come out beast-weighted in a mask, but I think that facial injury did affect Lewandowski quite a bit in this match.
Right.
He didn't look fully with it on the match, and I think without their two wings in Ribery and Robin, it looked less threatening. The Bayern attack looked a lot less threatening, a lot less inspiration. Like, Muller did try very hard, and he looked much more likely to score a goal than Lewandowski did, in my opinion. But look, Messi killed off the match within a few minutes once he did start get going, and then Neymar pretty much got a chip in that last minute. So, you're going into the second leg now, 3-0 down. You wonder what the mindset of these Bayern players are, because they did just come back from a deficit the last round.
Yeah.
So it'd be very interesting to see what their mindset is. Do you come out fully attacking, but then in the same breath you do have the most lethal attacker in the world if you try and go full forward, like, in your attacking mindset.
And speaking about the injuries as well, I mean, no David Alaba in the defense, so you've got to put Lam up in the midfield and start moving things around at the back. Neuer played a great game. He had 3 goal saves that were easily... It could have made Barca go up 3-0 before even at the half. Okay, so you think about how well Bayern played, though, how well Pep had it. I mean, he started with 3 defenders at the start of the game, which opened it up. Suarez had a one-on-one, Dani Alves had a one-on-one, which obviously Neuer saved. But when he changed it up to have 4 defenders at the back, I think that really stifled Barcelona. I mean, 75 minutes in, and it honestly looked to be 0-0, maybe even 1-0 to Bayern.
One man broke this match open, because in my opinion, that second goal obviously was a beautiful chip. You can make as many jokes as you want about chips and everything for Neuer, but I think that first goal where it was outside of the box or near the outside of the box, 3 defenders in his way, and he just curls it around into the near post around Neuer, to break the deadlock of a match like that. Look, Messi single-handedly broke this match open, in my opinion.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Jerome Boateng. I think they might still be digging up him from the bottom of the camp now.
Yeah, I mean, and Boateng played that was one of the worst defensive plays I've seen, because Messi hadn't even cut fully in when he turned his hips, and it's going to happen every time.
He's been embarrassed enough. I mean, there's the amount of memes that come out about, that's the instant age, though. If there's one bad play that leads to a goal off and the player will get ridiculed, I'm sure, David Luiz we saw in the last leg against Barca, against Suarez as well.
Yeah.
It does look bad for these defenders, and I feel like this 3-0 scoreline doesn't flatter the work rate of Neuer in this match, of the tactics that Pep Guardiola had put in place. Sometimes you just can't plan for that next level that Messi can take it to.
Right, I mean, you talked about David Luiz, and he got embarrassed by Suarez as well. But the difference with that is, there wasn't much that Luiz can do. I mean, Boateng, it was just a bad play. You ask any professional defender will tell you that Messi wasn't even close to coming across goal, and he'd already opened his hips. When Messi came back around to shift his weight backwards, it obviously just sent him back like he'd been shot in the head. I mean, that's what it looked like, right?
Yeah.
And yeah,
sniper in the building.
You're right.
Sniper in the building.
So we talk about that in basketball as well, because when you get crossed up, all your weight shifts over to one side, and you just go backwards and fall. That's what happened to Boateng, but that was just a crappy play. You talked about the first goal and the importance. It was brilliant.
Exactly.
I mean, you can talk about the second goal all you want, but that first one,
I think visually impressively,
amazing.
like visuals-wise, like everyone likes seeing a chip over a goalkeeper. I think one of my favourite Chelsea goals of all time is, if you can remember back to the 2012 Champions League, where Ramirez chipped Victor Valdez.
Right.
Like, chips are always visually impressive, and it's great to watch for the crowd, but I think the guts that it took to pull off a very, very unlikely shot against the best goalkeeper in the world, what Messi did, I think, to break that match open and then to add to it, it's going to be very tough, even though Bayern are notorious for being very high-scoring and threatening at home. One of the best home ground advantages in football, period.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'll be difficult for them to bring this match back, and I don't think you'll see Luis Enrique be stupid enough to open his defence enough that 3 goals will be scored.
Right, so...
Or at least he'll try and kill the match off with an away goal.
Exactly, I mean, because in those last 15 minutes, Barcelona just completely dominated.
Because of the away goal system, like if Barca get 1 goal in this next match, Bayern pretty much have to score 5.
Yeah.
And
no Robben, no Ribéry, like you said. Lewandowski
injuries
not
have just got Bayern harshly this year. I mean, they've already won the league. Props to them for that. Like, the German league, they just have a stranglehold over at the moment.
Yeah.
And but in the Champions League this year, I think they're hard done by injuries, and I still maintain my initial pick. Obviously, the scorelines would have changed a bit, but I still think Barca's going to get through and reach the Champions League final.
Right, so what do you think the score is in the second leg?
Look, I see Bayern being a bit more inspired at home. They'll score at least 1 goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you'll also see Barca kill the game off with an away goal. So I see a 2-1 win to Bayern. Bayern will be determined to try and get a few goals, but they won't get past the defence.
So you've got Bayern winning 2-1.
Bayern will win 2-1, but obviously they would still see Barcelona go through to the final 4-2.
Yeah, okay, well, I mean, I've got that completely different then, because I've got Barcelona winning 4-0.
4-0?
Yeah, it's going to be 7-0.
In Bayern's house?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, you think about it, Barcelona didn't play well those first 75, and it wasn't because of anything too ridiculous that Bayern did. I mean, sure, they played it well, they pressured the midfield well, we couldn't really stay in their half, but the way Barca played in those last 15 minutes, it was amazing. It was the Barca we're used to seeing in the league.
Yeah, exactly, and like the dominance of that sort of Barcelona, it is often hard for these large sides that are so used to tweaking their game plan, and we see this a lot with Italian sides that are so used to tweaking their game plan to dominating the lesser sides so significantly. When they come up against sides of equal or even more significant talent and prowess, it often doesn't translate too well. But we did see in that last 15 minutes that dominance of Barcelona we are often seeing in the league.
Right, and that team's only going to get better because news in is Tommy Vermaelen is coming back from injury, right? So he's been practicing full contact practice. So, I mean, I really liked him when he was at Arsenal. So suddenly you put him at the back with PK. You got Dani Alves if he stays out on the right, Alba on the left.
So you believe he's a better in that role than Mascherano would be?
Yeah, because I feel like Busquets is our biggest liability, and putting Mascherano in at defensive mid.
I was going to say the role. I feel like Mascherano is very underused in his natural position, because you saw how he did play that playmaking deep lying midfielder for Argentina. Obviously, right. I feel like he was as big of a catalyst for their final push to the World Cup final as Messi was, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, even when he played at Liverpool, at that defensive mid position, that was his pure position. He played so well behind Xabi Alonso in that midfield and Gerrard. So cleaning up all their mistakes was his game. That was all he did. And now if you put
a mistake-prone player at that defensive midfielder in Sergio Busquets, you're seeing it go to that last line of defense quite a lot.
Right, and like I believe in PK, but you can't have him save the game every week.
Exactly.
You know, so if you put Mascherano up in the midfield, with Iniesta, one of the best midfielders in the world.
And he has returned to form a bit, you'd say, especially with some of the assists he's putting through, like, and everything like that. He isn't a heavy stat guy, but that's not why he's the best in the world. Like,
no, I mean, you can just watch him. The eye test will tell you he's one of the best. And you got Rakitic in there, pretty much a workhorse, you know.
I love Rakitic. I love the way he's coming.
Kind of reminds me of Dirk Kuyt, to be honest. Although he doesn't play out on the wing, but he just doesn't stop running, does all the dirty work. So him and Mascherano playing together with Iniesta in there, Messi creates by himself. You know, Suarez can play a pass as well. So Barcelona's got a lot of options, and if they do make the final like we predict, I feel like they're going to be really strong favourites, no matter who comes out of the second leg.
And speaking of that second matchup as well, we're going to talk about Juve Real. So I think you've got some high horse riding to do here, Marcelo, having picked a Juventus win so far.
Right, so I mean, I wasn't surprised by this result. I thought 2-1 was... Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all. You know, it's a good result at home. Now they have to go to Madrid and play in the Bernabeu, but I think maybe a 1-1 will be the result for the second leg because, you know, you look at Madrid, they're just not playing well.
Agreed.
Even in the league against the lesser Spanish teams, you know, you can talk about La Liga teams all you want about how weak they are compared to other teams in Europe. But
they're dropping matches they should be winning more often than Barca are, a lot more often than Barca
right,
are.
I mean, they're winning games, but it's not convincing. You know, Gareth Bale is off form, and I know we've talked about the hate that the media's given him in the past.
It's hard to deny he's not at his peak right now.
Right, and Ronaldo will be Ronaldo, but one of my biggest knocks against him is that he doesn't create for the team. So
exactly.
If Ronaldo could be on fire, but if he doesn't get the ball in the right positions, he's not going to score.
Exactly.
You got Benzema who's out injured, who could come back for the second leg. I don't believe in that midfield at all. I don't believe in Modric. I don't believe in Kroos.
Even if Modric he's not there, he's not in at the moment.
Right.
To be honest,
and you saw what they did in the first leg. They put Sergio Ramos in the midfield.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me? What is that?
That's just
you put one of the best
misplacing
centre backs in the world, if not the best.
Yeah.
Centre back in the world in midfield. So you put Pepe and Varane at the back. Pepe, one of the biggest liabilities in football. Right, he's a walking red card.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Varane, as good as I think he will be, he's not experienced enough to be playing at this level.
He's still a potential conversation. Like you need to talk. You talk about him. You still talk about his potential to be one of the best. But he's not quite at that level yet. He's still very good, but he's not quite at the level of your Mats Hummels or your Sergio Ramos.
Right, and like he's performed in big games because he performed in El Clasicos, but it's a different animal altogether playing in the Champions League, you know, going across to another country, not playing at home.
Exactly.
So you put Ramos in the midfield, I'm not sure what the stats were, but he wasn't hitting any passes. And what do you do as a midfielder, Nathan? You pass. That's all you do. You're passing the ball. That's your job. So, I mean, I don't know what Ancelotti's doing, but I honestly cannot see Madrid at any point getting through this tie. 2-1, it's... Juventus get a goal. For me, that's over. It's over.
Look, and I have a lot of respect. I personally, I'm rooting for Juventus throughout the rest of the Champions League. I've always had a bit of a penchant for the Italian leaguers, and I've always enjoyed watching the Juventus or the Roma a bit more, because the Italian league, it is falling off a bit. But the good sides in the Italian league are still very, very good. And Juventus at the head of that.
What about Inter, though? Inter and AC?
By the good teams, I meant the good teams. Not the big clubs, necessarily. Like, the Milan teams are another discussion altogether. Financial troubles, poor form, poor selling, poor coaching. That's a whole other issue. Poorly run organisations that need to turn things around.
Yeah.
But Juventus is the shining light of Italian football. I think... Bring Allegri in. He's a class act, in my opinion. I think he's a great manager.
Yeah.
And he had the guts to come in after Antonio Conte, obviously bringing them 3 straight championships. Brought a great system into there. Bring the right players into Juventus, but he had the guts to go, no, I don't like this system. I don't think it gets the best out of this team. Mm-hmm. And he changed it from the traditional 3 in the back to its current system of a 4-3-3 or a 4-3. It's not very structured up front, but it's still it's very threatening.
It's weird up front because they play 4-2-3-1 sometimes. I've seen them play 4-3-3, so it's a bit hard to judge. But to your point, that's part of coaching.
But when you have a very, very threatening, informed Carlos Tevez up front, look, I think this is probably the best year in his career for a sizable amount of time, probably since Man United. Mm-hmm. and he's found another gear in the performances he does. The brilliant thing I like about him, and you mentioned about Ronaldo before, how he doesn't set up for his teammates. Tevez is constantly looking to set up his teammates. Like he likes getting Morata going, who I think is a big coup to bring in from Real Madrid, because he was...
Really? So you like Morata?
I like Morata, not in the way that I think he's going to be amazingly like the best in the world or anything like that, but I think it was a good purchase for a club like Juventus. Because he was never going to get the proper amount of time he was at Real. And personally, he's a young player with plenty of potential. But as he's not going to create a lot of goals for himself. Like, he needs players like the Tevez and that sort of stuff to create for him. That being said, however, I really think that Real Madrid will come through in this tie and get through to the final.
What's the score on the second leg, man?
1-0. Real Madrid lock it down and bash it out on the counter-attack. Their defence does look a bit sketchy, but look, we've seen Ancelotti coach big matches before and come out with a win, especially the Bernabeu, which has some pretty rabid fans, so it's a pretty big home ground advantage in my opinion. I think we see Ronaldo and Bale surprise us with a performance. Like, Bale just came out with a pretty strong La Liga performance despite Real Madrid not getting the correct result. He's starting to look a little bit better. So in my opinion, they come out 1-0, either Bale or Ronaldo scores, and they go through the final for an El Clasico matchup.
See, I mean, that's what everyone wants, right? And you read about it because that would be the greatest thing, to have an El Clasico final, but I just can't see it happening.
How often we see El Clasico these days, would it be as significant as we think it is?
Yeah, it is, because you think about comparing the leagues, and you think about how well the Spanish clubs have done lately in the Champions League. You know, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid.
It's just perennial semi-finalists, pretty much. It's just, they're always there.
So they're either winning it, they're in the final,
or there's
two in the semi-finals.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and there's no English clubs in the semi-finals this year. I thought that was a bit of an aberration, really. That's a bit of an outlier.
Exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Look, and a lot was said about the low quality of the English league after that. I don't necessarily think that's true. Obviously, being a Chelsea fan, I'm seeing the quality from them at the moment. They just didn't play well against PSG in those two matches. But they're going to come away with silverware. I think Arsenal, as much shade as we did throw on them last week, they're on the improve as well, obviously. Now that they're financial, like the stadium debt, everything, that's all over and done with. They can purchase as per their club size, as we saw with Alexis Sanchez, as we saw with Mesut Ozil. They're getting the right players now for the system. They just need to find the correct pieces to finish off that, and they'll be a very threatening side.
To be honest, I just don't believe in Arsenal. When Arsene Wenger's there, and I know people disagree with me because Arsene Wenger has brought them championships before.
But you feel like at the moment they're in a cycle of get to the Champions League.
I mean, what's changed? Because there's always good players at Arsenal. You can say that they haven't left. I mean, they've left, and then Arsenal's gotten bad. Then they get new players, and then they leave. And then they get new players, and then they leave. I mean, what's to say that these players right now on this team don't leave? And I know Sanchez, to me, is a great player, but he's not on the same caliber as some of the best attackers in the world. You can say Ozil's one of the best midfielders in the world. He's their best player.
Yeah.
But
he just hasn't been comfortable. Like, a lot of the time you watch him and he's not very comfortable in the system. And it's often that he's the one that is displaced out of his most comfortable role, which is that number 10 attacking role.
Right.
He'll be displaced out of left midfield, displaced out of a bunch of other roles, when I think you should be building the side around players like Marcelo and Sanchez, rather than just trying to fit your 10 attacking midfielders into one side.
Exactly, right.
I think there's a lot of talented guys like Aaron Ramsey and Mikel Arteta and all these guys.
Rositzky's really good too.
You can't play all these guys in one side. It's just because they're all attacking midfielders. And then you start to look like Real Madrid, who has those 6-7 attacking players in one side, and it starts to look a bit top-heavy.
Yeah. But just even talking about the positions, I mean, you think about it. Chelsea has one of the best keepers in the world, top 5 keepers in the world, right?
Exactly.
Okay, they've got one of the best centre-backs ever to play in English football.
Agreed.
Okay? They've got a top 5 midfielder in Fabregas.
They've got
a top 5 midfielder in Hazard.
And they've got a very underrated, great holding midfield in Nemanja Matic.
Right, but not even getting into that, we're talking about the elite players.
The elite players.
Diego Costa's an elite striker. Okay, so that's 5 bona fide players. Who do Arsenal have? Ozil? and that's it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, to be honest, I feel like Iniesta's better than Ozil, but that's a conversation for another day. And you could say Ozil's probably better.
But Ozil's young and he's achieved less in his career when you think of like actual, you put up the numbers next to each other.
Exactly. I mean, Sanchez is not elite. Giroud is not elite. Okay, so even moving on from Chelsea, you look at a team like Manchester City. Exactly. Aguero is an elite striker. One of the best strikers. Yaya Toure is
a very elite midfielder.
Elite midfielder.
Vincent Kompany on form can be one of the best centre-backs in the world.
Joe Hart is one of the best keepers in the world.
Exactly.
You know, and they've got a ton of pieces.
They've got a ton of players on the next tier down when you look at David Silva or you look at Samir Nasri. Like, there's a lot of players, and you look at the next tier down on a side like Arsenal or Liverpool when you go down those sort of clubs.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Coutinho shouldn't have made Team of the Year. Okay, can I just throw that out?
Yep,
that was complete bullshit.
I feel like he did get a lot of props from certain players like John Terry, like Brendan Rodgers, everything like that, and that might have forced the issue a little bit.
He had a good run of form. It was like a month, but are you kidding me? Over Fabregas?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding me? I mean, even just looking at the stats.
I think they thought it was a bit excessive. They couldn't put our whole starting 11 in the Team of the Year, but even though it was almost...
I thought at least 5 players from Chelsea deserved it.
Exactly.
But yeah, so just talking about Arsenal, it's not good enough. They've got great players, but they're not elite. And they need at least 2 more superstar players.
Exactly.
And I don't know where they're going to get them from.
And you feel like they've been missing that certain magic about their play since Thierry Henry did leave.
Yeah.
Because he was... In my opinion, they've had a lot of great players, like Robin Van Persie, for one, when he scored 30 goals in a season. Yeah. You had Cesc Fabregas. But then I think even they are on one tier down from Thierry Henry.
Right. I mean,
then you obviously had Bergkamp. You had
Pires as well.
Exactly. You had a lot of players that were like greats. And then Thierry Henry was the leader. Like he was a player that defined his generation. When you think of that generation that came through, so I think they've been looking for that sort of magical side since. But you look at them, how many football greats are they going to be coming out of the current Arsenal generation?
Yeah, and you think about the transfer market as well. Who would they buy to make their team better? You got
exactly
Cavani, Ibrahimovic, and not going to go to Arsenal.
Exactly.
Okay, those are probably the biggest steals.
As great as I personally think Ibrahimovic is a top 5 attacker in Europe.
Yeah.
But he's also turning 34.
Right.
He's coming over the crest. And then Cavani also, whether he stays at PSG or not is up in the air. But I personally haven't seen enough of what he's done at PSG as the absolute attacking beast I saw at Napoli.
Right. I mean, he did score a few goals on the weekend, but again, to the comparison to the leagues...
everyone can put up 2 goals a game or something like that once or twice in a season.
Right.
But it's doing it consistently... that makes you a footballing star, in my opinion. The whole reason why Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi are at the top is because they produce magic so consistently. They produce 3-4 goal performances multiple times a season. They have more silverware than any player. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
So it's about doing these things consistently that defines footballing stars. And you see glimpses of it at the Arsenal players, but you don't see anything of that level consistently.
Right, and I mean, next season is going to be interesting to see because United are on the come up.
Oh, yeah.
Manchester United are going to be doing very well next season.
I think we knew when the whole David Moyes fiasco and everything happened. You can say what you want about LVG and whether you think he's a good manager for that side and everything like that, but we knew with the money, the image, and the star power that Man United have and will have once they purchase the right players. Mm-hmm. They were never going to stay down for long.
Oh, hell no. No way.
There was always going to be a transitional period after Fergie, arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest manager of all time.
Yeah. And we'll be having an EPL season preview.
And I actually liked that United dropped off, not for the obvious reason, but it actually... Because everyone... It is the same thing as some of the points people make on Pep Guardiola, and the same thing happened to Barcelona on a lesser scale. You look at these great managers, but they're working with so many stars and at such big clubs, you're like, how great can they actually be? You saw when Fergie left United, they were in panic because the system had been in so long and Fergie was such a great manager.
Right.
You look at the last title United won in 2013, and you look at that squad and you're like, there were more talented squads in Manchester City and Chelsea in the Premier League. But he was working with... He got the best out of Robin Van Persie when he was healthy. He got the best out of Rooney when he was healthy. He got the best out of a pretty bones bare midfield. Like Carrick maybe had one of his best seasons of his career.
Yeah, I think Michael Carrick's a bit underrated.
Exactly, but I'm just saying that he got more out of probably one of the barest Man United sides. Like, is certainly less talented than the one that played this year.
Yeah.
But he got a title out of it.
Right.
He got a fairly dominant title out of it. So I think United will be back. They're too good that they attract too many good players to be out for long. But that isn't. I think Chelsea is set up for a pretty dominant run in the Premier League.
Oh, so are you already picking Chelsea for next season then, Nathan?
I'm not picking them necessarily for next season. I think they're going to be back just as strong because consistency breeds success. And they finally had the pieces. They had the right manager. Everything seems in harmony in Chelsea at the moment, barring an injury run, touch wood. They've started to put in a system that might carry them to greater success because I don't see them going down the round of 16 next year in Europe. I certainly don't see that at all.
Right, well...
I think we've had a pretty
We've
sizable...
just talked too much about teams that aren't in the Champions
Exactly.
League. Irrelevant teams like
So
Arsenal.
your pick, Juventus and Barca for the final?
Yes, definitely. Nothing else is going to happen. Bayern aren't coming through. Madrid aren't coming through.
And I see an El Clasico. So let's move it to more local soccer or football.
Call it what it is, Nathan. It's football. Come on now.
Feet.
We are educated sports analysis.
I'm also Australian, so I'm like... I grew up with AFL.
All right, moving on. Melbourne victory. Melbourne City, you called this game. You had victory winning. I had City winning. It's a pretty convincing win by victory.
I'll just do a quick brag. Yeah, I said victory would win, and they won. So
it's one of the first predictions Nathan's got right on this pod.
Shots fired.
All right, but yeah.
All right, these were both two very dominant performances in my opinion. You can say what you want about both shots going either way, but in football, it's about finishing your chances.
Right, so Sydney beat Adelaide 4-1 as well. And so two convincing wins over two very good teams.
Exactly.
Adelaide and Manchester. Oh.
Which is good because it sets up a great final, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you look at the Melbourne Derby and it ended up 3-1 in victory, 3-0 in victory's favour.
Yeah.
And, Borussia got on the scoreboard. Archie Thompson got on the scoreboard. So it sets up, I think, possibly a pretty high-scoring final. Like, because obviously these two sides have a pretty attacking mindset. Like, in the football they're playing.
Victory Sydney, it's gonna be a good game because these are the two best teams, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But to me, I reckon Sydney's got this easy in the bag. This is a 3-0. Like this is go home, man. This is like
Sky
Melbourne
Blues lifting a title in Marcelo's mind.
Mate, Melbourne victory don't have a chance.
Well, you look at Yanko and what he's done this season up front for Sydney as well.
Yeah.
I see victory as a side with a lot of pedigree. You obviously have Archie Thompson, a soccer veteran.
He's the best the highest goal scorer in the history of the league.
Exactly. So he's been here before. He's done it before. Borussia obviously coming off a very dominant run for Brisbane Roar.
Yeah.
In terms of where they were the last 2 years. So you have players with championship experience. I think Sydney. This can go either way, but in my opinion, I see Melbourne victory taking this out.
Well, you've got victory taking it out.
I've got victory taking it out 2-1.
Wow.
So I personally think...
Wow, okay.
I think victory have a very good chance at this. You can't say either side wasn't convincing in their semi-final. I know you have your doubts about victory, about how they were at the end.
They're not doubts, it's obvious. I mean, you look at them play, they're not playing well. Like, they dismantled Melbourne City, but it wasn't the same.
But they're carrying that as their most recent form. Obviously, the regular season, the end of the regular season is worrying. But it's worrying for how are you going to carry that in the finals? And they've got through this convincing match against Melbourne City.
I know, but they didn't even play that well. It's honestly, you
think the 3-0 scoreline flatters them?
I think it could be 4-0. I think Sydney goes off. I mean, the run that Sydney's been putting together is ridiculous. 4-1 against Adelaide. Are you kidding me? Adelaide's one of the better teams in the league, and defensively they're doing very well.
Yeah,
they did do very well.
We thought Adelaide would give Sydney a very close run, and it ended up being pretty dominant. It
was ridiculous, and just the way that they dismantled them. I mean, it wasn't even.
And obviously that crazy backhill goal. That's our highlight of the week for A-League. If you haven't seen that, go check that out.
I mean, just looking at the lineup for Adelaide as well, just Galekovic, one of the best keepers in the league, right? And Malik is pretty good too. The attack there with Karuska, Isaias, Pablo Sanchez, and Sirio. It's. I mean, maybe you could say that maybe like Goodwin's probably the worst on that attacking side, but he got the goal. And Sydney isn't as stacked. I mean, you got Bernie Abini, who's one of your favourite players, right, Nave?
Yeah.
Brosk is there as well, and you think about it, the big names aren't there, but it's quality.
Yeah.
They're playing well. I honestly think they will just completely destroy Victory this
I think it'll be a
weekend.
much closer match than you do, and I personally am picking Victory for this final. So
I mean, you were right last week, so hey.
So yeah, I'm just gonna stick with the Victory, like just ride them into the final.
Victory's biggest fan.
Oh mate, I got an uncle who's a season ticket, so just gotta.
Why is he not a Brisbane Raw fan, Nathan?
He moved to Melbourne probably 20 years ago, so the loyalties have switched, and like you gotta keep the Melbourne pod fans happy, Marcelo.
That's true.
Right.
We do love Melbourne, both of us.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's
Best city in Australia?
Oh, I think we'll leave that one.
No. Answer the question. Is it the best city in Australia?
It would be the city besides Brisbane I'd most want to live.
Oh, that's sweet,
I'm
Nathan. That's so nice.
I'm gonna give such a pussy answer for that.
We do love Brisbane though.
Speaking of Melbourne, also, there's a lot of AFL games being played this week.
The Saints, man. Tell me what happened.
The equal fifth biggest comeback in VFL AFL history. And like often you're like, oh yeah, fifth biggest. But this is 125 years of history, and they've cemented their place in it with a 55-point comeback against the Western Bulldogs. Going in out of half-time, it was 70-16. So they had kicked 2 goals.
Right. And you like the Bulldogs too.
I'll admit, I came out last week on the pod and I really respect their young system, but with young players and a lot of talent, it can be pretty streaky with how they perform. Obviously, they didn't have the composure to hold on to a massive should be over lead.
Right.
And look, props to the Saints. I've always liked them as a team. I bandwagoned them a bit when they were going to the grand final a few years ago. I'll admit that. But I personally think with the Saints, look, they're not going to make finals or anything crazy this year, but it was a very impressive comeback, and it was a pretty big miracle what they achieved, to be honest. It was just slack from the Bulldogs to let a big league slip like that.
So what else has been going on? I mean, we heard about the comeback. We heard a lot about it.
Yeah.
But what else has been going on?
There's probably not even the most stunning win of the week, to be honest. The Giants beat the Hawks. Now, the Giants are the most recent expansion side coming to the league in 2012.
Yep.
They've been pretty big bottom feeders up until this season, but they're showing promise now this season. They're now 4-2.
Okay.
And this most recent win came up against the winning side from last year, the Hawthorn Hawks.
Right.
Jeremy Cameron, in my opinion, is, if not already, the best key forward in the league. He's still very young. He's only in his 4th year. But, look, he's very dominant. And outside of Lance Franklin, you'd have to think pretty hard to find a better key forward than Jeremy Cameron. He kicked 7 goals in this win. It's a huge win for the Giants. And, look, they're looking a lot more likely for finals than Gold Coast are. Look, the thing is with the Giants, they're a side of midfielders. So a lot of players play out of position for a lot of the match. That's just how they drafted. They drafted a lot of midfielders when they came out. But that also means you've got sides that have a lot of composure in the way they play, a lot of intensity and a lot of gut running.
Right.
And then the last match I want to talk about is Freo defeated the Essendon Bombers as well. So they stay undefeated for 6-0. So 6-0. This Fremantle side is the oldest in the league. They have a lot of players that have been in there a long time. Matthew Pavlich, Aaron Sandilands, Luke McFarlane. But these are 3 of the greatest players in their position for the last few years.
Right.
And
sorry, Nate, for those of us that don't know, part of the audience, how many games in a season for the AFL?
There's 22. There's 22 games
right,
in a
Right,
season.
so 6-0, that's a quarter down.
So, look, usually to make finals you have to win about 11 matches just to make it on the bottom feeder. Usually about 17, 18 wins will get you the league.
Right.
They're obviously a third of the way there, and I personally, you look at them and you're like, they have played as the best side in the league so far. I think the ladder starts to look about how it will look at the end, maybe halfway through the season. So we'll see how we're going by then.
Yeah.
But Freo, they honestly look unstoppable right now. Nat Fyfe, Michael Barlow, very strong midfield, and David Mundy as well. Like, a lot of talent, finally producing at the level we thought they would. They have a great coach in Ross Lyon. You couldn't count them out for a premiership this year.
Okay.
So they'll be a big factor all year for the rest of the season.
Right.
But yeah, that about does it for my AFL commentary this week. Let's hop back over to Europe for a bit.
Right, so we've got the first tennis topic of the podcast.
Oh, shout out to tennis.
And we want to apologize because there has been tennis going on in these last few weeks that we haven't covered, right? But there's just been so many
We
topics.
thought we'd just get in the clutch for the Madrid Derby and talk about the final.
Madrid Open.
How many times have I said Madrid Derby the
You
last
just want to
few
see
days?
it so much in that UCL
Yeah, I just
final.
want to look. I just want to see the Spanish final so much. My mind's just in football
It's just
mode
set
all the
on
time.
it.
Okay, the Madrid Open.
Right. Murray Nadal in the final. Who you got?
Nadal. I always have
Thank
Nadal's
you.
back. Look, I've always been a big Nadal fan, and this is clay court. That's his favourite, pretty much.
Right.
Murray also loves playing spoiler for the other big three. He loves beating them.
I mean, Murray's second seed.
Exactly. And we got to talk about our boy, Nick Kyrgios.
The man himself from Australia.
Beat his long-time role model and mentor, Roger Federer, which was a big performance. He did obviously get knocked out as well, but look, this kid's like 20 years old. There's a lot. We got a lot to see from this kid, but I think he would definitely be your favourite Aussie young tennis player.
Oh, for sure.
In comparison to maybe someone else, maybe a bit of a gold close delinquent, Bernard Tomic, is it?
Right. So, I mean, yeah, Bernard.
Am I trying to get you fired up? I don't know.
Right. We don't like Bernard Tomic. Okay.
No Regard is coming out with a statement right now. We collectively do not like Bernard Tomic.
But even you think about it you think about Australia and the ethnic groups here, right? So Kyrgios has Greek heritage. Okay, so just having that, you have pretty much the whole country behind you, right? Because everybody likes that underdog, Australia is the land of being multicultural. There's so many nations here, and we just love it when someone's Australian, but they've got an ethnic background. And he's playing very well. You talk about Tomic and his quality. He's a good player.
But he's never going to be on the next level. He's
not.
We see that, and I'm not going to bash his work rate or anything. I'm sure he works very hard. All tennis players do.
I don't even know about that, Because
Well,
you think about it, he's got really good talent, but
Exactly.
he's not focused. Bernard Tomic isn't focused. He's not.
You saw him hanging around schoolies like a few years ago, or even last year. I'm sure it was.
Was he at our schoolies?
I don't know. We should have got an autograph and
Oh my
maybe
God.
slap in the face.
Yeah. He should have asked for our autograph.
Hoop dreams, man.
Right, so Bernard Tomic, we don't believe in him. At least, okay, I'll speak for myself. I don't believe in him.
Okay.
And I think Kyrgios is the future for Australia.
Yeah.
Just getting back to the Madrid Open, though. I mean, Murray Nadal, I think Nadal's got this in... Oh. He wins it in 2.
Wins it in 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because, I mean, the setup for the Madrid Open is two sets get you the win.
Best of 3, yeah.
So you got the second seed and the third seed, Murray and Nadal respectively. And we got to mention Djokovic as well, because he didn't... He skipped this to get ready for Roland Garros.
Yep.
Right? And that's huge. I mean, honestly, Djokovic could have won this easily.
Djokovic always could have, he's always up there. Any of the big 4 are always in the discussion for any of these titles.
Right. I mean, Ferrer was there, late quarterfinals, Nishikori as well. But Dyke, and we had Isner, who knocked out Kyrgios as well in the quarterfinals. So there's a lot of variety. Federer didn't do too well. But I can't see Nadal losing this.
I agree.
I mean, in Madrid, right? This is
This is home court.
This is home court.
Yeah.
This is pretty much where he
Can't
lives.
do this in our house, Murray.
Right, exactly. If Murray wins this, that's pretty big.
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
honest. He goes into the next tournament with huge
for
momentum.
once, we're agreeing on a result. For the first time in a little while, we've both seen Nadal winning this.
Nadal wins this for sure. Yeah.
Right. Let's get back to some stuff we can argue about, Marcelo. NBA.
And yeah, we got second round still going strong, man.
All right. So where are we going to start with this? Look,
I think we always start east.
Let's talk.
We always start east.
Yeah.
Let's start west this time.
Oh, let's start west.
Hell yeah, let's start west.
I wanted to talk about the bank shot weekend.
Leave it for later. Leave it for later.
All right. So let's talk about the MVP. Not Steph Curry, Tony Allen.
Oh,
First team all defense.
Tony
Allen
Allen himself, he's been shutting down the Splash Brothers. It's been ridiculous to see it because you think about it, and Mike Conley coming back from injury, the effect that it's had on that dynamic with the point guards. with the bigs playing so well, it really gives Memphis a shot every single game. And you've seen it happen. I mean, they're up 2-1. This next game is a must-win. So, will Steph Curry step up to the plate? I don't think so, to be honest. And we did both have Golden State winning this. But, you know, if...
They're going to give him a strong run.
If Memphis goes 3-1, that's it.
Agreed.
I think that's game over.
But, okay. So, at the start of this, I've continued my streak of not giving Memphis enough credit.
Right.
I didn't give enough credit during the
regular season. I don't think anyone
gives
them enough credit.
No one gives Memphis enough credit, full stop. Like, I personally thought the Trailblazers would beat Memphis.
Come on, man.
Like, that was
Nobody saw that coming.
That was just a bad pick.
Nathan was having an off week, that one.
But yeah, like, the reason this is just so brutal is, like, obviously the Splash Brothers just can't get it going.
The Spice Brothers.
The Splash Brothers.
Right, sorry, I misheard.
Spice Brothers.
Oh man, we're gonna have to get
new
a
boy
picture.
group. I think they might need to switch out if they get beaten so brutally by Memphis. Like, you know, change careers.
Hey, Zach Randolph is making them look like tissue.
Exactly. Bogut's played very poorly in this series compared to how he played in the first round.
But attribute that to the performance of the bigs for Memphis.
Exactly. Like that. Like, he hasn't been able to handle them.
Yeah.
Draymond hasn't been looking as strong as he has the last two matches. It's been the last two matches, really. I don't know how big of an effect Conley personally had an effect on it.
Oh, I think it was huge, honestly.
Like, him coming back has been the catalyst for these two beatdowns.
Yeah,
of
because
the Warriors.
it brings the team together as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, so suddenly you're not just relying on your bigs to score points.
Yeah. Look, Clay and Steph are getting beaten down and pushed around by
Yeah.
Conley and Tony Allen in this series. A lot of steals against them. Like, they're getting beat up in the paint. Like, Courtney Lee was hitting some big threes today. They're doing everything. They're doing everything. They're getting a lot of production out of bench players. They're getting a lot of production out of, obviously, the bigs, as you mentioned. Look, Game 4 is a must-win for the Warriors. There's no two ways about it.
Right, and
Very few sides come out of a 3-1 deficit. Like,
exactly.
Look, you can never count the Warriors out this season. Like, they're notorious for getting out of deficits.
Honestly, I would count them out if it went to 3-1 completely.
But as you just said, this next game is a must-win for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Steph needs to come up big. Clay needs to come up big. Dre needs to start defending Zach Randolph better than he has been.
I mean, Zach Randolph's a big guy, though.
He's a big guy. He's bashing. Like, he's notorious for bashing.
He's got a really nice touch inside as well.
Exactly.
You know, he'll get a lot of tip-ins and he'll get a lot of over-the-shoulder jumpers that.
But no one
go in.
No one associates Memphis with beautiful basketball. It's ugly. It's grit and grind.
And that's great. I love to see that.
Yeah, and that's what's given them a 2-1 advantage in this series.
Especially against a team like Golden State, who are all about finesse.
You feel like the ease and flow that offense played with in the regular season, where it just looks so like easy. It was a great system. Now they run into their adversity.
Right.
But this is why I think Golden State, for me, are still favourites to get out of this series and in turn to get the championship.
Okay. Tell me why.
Every series, every championship that I can think of, maybe besides the Shaq and Kobe era, where they had one season where they lost one game in the playoffs and swept the finals, everything like that.
Right.
There's always at least one series where they hit adversity. Like 7-game series, adversity, they look like they might go out. We look at last year, the champions, the Dallas Mavericks series for the Spurs was incredibly much tougher than they thought it was. First round, the 8 seed took them to 7 games, and the Spurs barely got out of there with their skin. But then they obviously hit their form and cruised through the rest of the playoffs. Is it
form or is it experience?
Look, it was a very tough series because there was a lot of experience on both those sides.
But, I mean, I would... you're comparing, like, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili to Klay Thompson, Steph Curry.
But then you look at... No, but then you go back and you look at other series in the past. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Miami Heat going 7 games with the San Antonio Spurs in 2013.
Right.
That was on a knife's edge. If Ray Allen doesn't come up, huge clutch in that.
Again,
that's a San Antonio...
experience.
Exactly.
Ray Allen, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh.
No, I'm just saying... But, like, if you're saying experience...
Mm-hmm.
Throw it back to maybe 2008 Boston Celtics. They almost got thrown out of the first round by the Atlanta Hawks, 7 games in the first round after being the 1 seed. Obviously, can talk about KG and all them being experienced.
Right, again,
but that was their first season together. Like, there's that consistency in San Antonio Spurs. I don't think you compare that big 3 that came together to get, like, you can't compare that necessarily. I'm saying champions always face at least one series in the playoffs that involves a lot of adversity.
I agree, but this is where we differentiate. I don't believe in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Or Bogut, or whoever you want to... Like, okay, Iguodala, that's my man.
Look, Iggy was missing a lot of wide open threes.
I know.
They don't respect his shooting, which I think is smart. Memphis isn't respecting Iggy's shooting, so they back off on him. They clog the paint, and Iggy's taking these jumpers, but he just doesn't have the confidence with him.
Right, but like going back to the stars, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, it's not the same, and it's different doing it from a guard position than at a forward position, right? Because a small forward would have... You'd think he'd have less control of a game, but you'd have a lot more ISOs, a lot more plays for you. When it's Steph Curry and he's in control, if he's not playing well, that team's gone. It doesn't matter how well Klay Thompson is shooting.
They are a live by the jump shot, die by the jump shot team.
Right.
So they're dying by it.
I mean, even if Steph Curry drops 40, but he's not playing well, he's getting turnovers, he's not getting assists.
0 assists this last game for Steph Curry, by the way.
Right, so, and the bigs aren't getting rebounds against, obviously, Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph. It just deteriorates the team's young. Well, their two stars are young.
Exactly.
They're not experienced. And honestly, like, I know that they played well with Mark Jackson, but they've never really made it far into the playoffs, right?
Agreed.
So, honestly, if this goes to 3-1, like we both said, I can't see Golden State, even if they go to 2-2, it's going to be hard.
This is the first big test for Golden State, so I think this game 4 is basically pass or fail. Like,
right.
Will they pass the test and get it to 2-2, make that split, and then they have the home court advantage going into those last 3 games.
Yeah, and you know how I feel about Steph Curry getting MVP. I thought it was a mistake. We both thought it should have been Harden, but I think the world will see why Steph Curry isn't the MVP this series.
On the topic of the MVP, how about we cross over to the other West series?
All right.
You're speaking about the MVP right now. Like, James Harden's putting up all right numbers on the Clippers. He put up 25.
For the Rockets, you mean? Sorry.
Pardon me. Again, I meant against the Clippers.
Yeah.
25 points and 11 assists in Game 3, but the results just aren't coming for the Rockets right now.
I mean, well, who knew Austin Rivers was going to go off?
True.
I mean, you lose your best player in Chris Paul for the Clippers. You'd think that series is over.
Your game plan against the Clippers is drawn up against the starters because you don't have a lot of respect for that bench as much as that bench can sometimes produce, because it doesn't always produce.
Right.
But we saw Austin Rivers going off for 25.
Yeah.
Some crazy shots. He was something like 10 for 12 or 8 for 12 or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, I think it is a bit of an outlier.
It is an outlier for Austin Rivers.
And Chris Paul is confirmed to come back for Game 4.
He was back in Game 3, although he did not play. I think he still played about 25 minutes.
Yeah, but he will start in Game 4, so... I think I was wrong about his injury too. It might have been a bit worse than I thought.
Yeah, I expected him to miss the first 2 or 3 games. He missed Game 1 and 2, but they did split the series, Clippers. You picked the Clippers coming in.
Yeah.
Do you stand by that pick?
Yeah, for sure, because Chris Paul back for Game 4. I think that's it. That's 3-1. That's it. I mean, you all you got to do is win one more game.
And like, I think I've changed my opinion now. Like, you look at the Rockets in that first game, they just didn't look with it at all.
Right.
That last game, it just blew out in the fourth quarter.
You know who they're missing? They're missing Parsons.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I think they're missing Beverly more. Actually,
you reckon?
The point guard is just a mismatch for them because, look, Harden's not playing the great defense we saw this season with him. Like, I honestly think his defense improved.
Oh, it was never great, but it was better than what we're used to seeing.
But it improved exponentially during the regular season.
Exponentially,
like,
yes.
10 times 0 is still 0.
Yeah. No, but he did play.
Yeah, he played great defense during the
average defense.
Well, great
for him.
Relatively great to his own defense.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing that old defense. He's just standing there as a spectator during plays. But look,
and you also can't expect Harden to do everything himself.
Yeah.
You can't expect him to drop 40 or 10 assists and be defending the best player as well.
Exactly, but in that same
we're talking about him defending Chris Paul. I mean...
Very true. But then again, he's getting defended fairly well too. Like, Houston have resulted going to the line a lot. And this series is ugly to watch, man. Like, it's a lot of hacker. Like, it's a lot of hacker shack, this whole series. And I just don't know, man. Like, you're watching these players go at it, and you're like, you just don't know whether Dwight and Jordan, like, it'll come down to a Game 7 where it is just hacking.
Okay, well, can we just touch on that? Because the league has openly said that they're taking a look at that.
Yeah. And
whether they're going to change the rules. Do you think they should?
Look, they definitely have to have a look at it. Like, they definitely have to review the process, and I think something should be changed.
What?
No, I don't mean no, but
Okay, explain.
But something should be changed in the way of maybe the amount of timeouts, maybe everything like that. But I think the actual rules of the game, no.
So what would you change with the timeouts?
Maybe something like maybe less timeouts. So like it's more like the spectator value. Like you don't look at it from the actual game of basketball. Nothing should be changed. Okay. Guys should be making their free throws.
Thank you.
Like no, like that's just straight up. Like if you're shooting 33%, they have a right to take advantage of that.
Thank you.
You're safeguarding these players if they're not. But I'm just saying like it doesn't make for good viewing and it doesn't make good for the NBA.
Right.
But then again, you look at I think Adam Silver had a look at the viewing numbers. Viewing numbers don't go down when they're doing all this sort of stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe they might not go down.
Yeah.
But do you want it to stay the same? You want to improve as a league.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you.
They need to have a look at it. But I think the actual rules of the game, guys need to make their free throws. And as an opposition coach, you have the right to take advantage of a poor free throw shooter.
Yeah, and that's.
But I think running up the court and intentional fouling for, I think there was a stat where 26 seconds of play went by in 11 minutes.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of a quarter, that's insane.
No, but okay. So we agree that you should be able to foul. Don't change anything, okay?
Yeah.
People should go to the line in the bonus, take their free throws. If they miss, that's it. You got to live with it.
Because some pretty big matches have been decided before by free throws, and like, if you start safeguarding poor free throw shooters, they start to look irrelevant. Like,
exactly. So, but I think I do agree with you. The league does need to take a look at not necessarily anything to do with the free throws, but with the timeouts and the stoppage of the game.
Yeah.
You know, one of the biggest problems in the NFL right now, which is another American sport, is that there's maybe only 15 minutes of actual play in a 3-hour broadcast.
Exactly.
And that's because, you know, you have the clock running down as they're getting to the line of scrimmage or whatever. But they need to have a look at it because as a viewer, you don't want to see that. You want to see the action.
Of course.
Right? You don't want to see the ads as great as American ads
are.
But
the thing is, now because it is such a commercial league and there's so much money in it, you think those advertisers want to give up those timeouts?
No, they don't.
They don't. Like, no. they want the advertising time and, like, it's going to be hard to convince them not to have it.
So it's a balance between
I
money
reckon
and
the
viewership.
league, like, the coaches and the players and everything definitely want left times out. These are conditioned athletes. They can go for 48 minutes, like, for just, like, short breaks in between. Like, They can go for that long. They have the fitness for it, but, like, the money in it just doesn't permit for them to reduce it.
Yeah.
But, okay. So with this Clippers-Rockets series, what do you see it finishing in?
I think I had it in 6 games or 7 last week, and I think I'm going to stay with that. I think 6 games. Clippers, yeah.
I would have to agree with you. Like, Clippers just look more. They just look better. They just look like a better team. Blake has been a monster these entire playoffs. For me, with CP3 has been the best player on that team, and now the way he carried the team in Game 1 when CP3 was out. Like, what can you say? Like, it's not surprising because Blake Griffin has always been one of the best 10 players in the NBA. Mm-hmm. So he's one of the guys that have potential to do this, but this is another level. Like, this is advancing himself to another level, especially the rebounds. Like, he had, I think, a career low 7 rebounds a game during the regular season.
That's a career low?
Career low. He had 12
7?
in his rookie. And he's a power forward. He's averaging 13 in this playoffs.
No, but I know, but you see some power forwards get less than 5. You know? I mean, it's crazy. Blake Griffin has been playing well. I think. Yeah. I'm
just saying, like, all his stats have gone up. He's been hustling hard in these playoffs.
Yeah, and it's good to have a point guard like Chris Paul at your side as well, and especially with someone as big as DeAndre Jordan to take the attention off of you. It's only going to be good times. But let's go over to the East with all the action and drama.
Bank shot weekend.
Let's start with your Bulls, Nathan.
Okay, so watching this game live, probably the best Bulls game I've ever seen live. I'm going to have to say it. Like, second round playoffs.
That Milwaukee game was pretty good, though.
It was pretty good, but it's always better when we win it, man. It ended up being a 99-96 win. Some pretty edgy calls, it could have gone either way in those last few minutes.
That's what we love.
We love edgy calls. We love edgy calls in that regard. Look, LeBron missed a crucial layup in the last few seconds. Everything else, but he was set up with 5 seconds to go. Gets inbounded. Derrick Rose, apparently there's a play drawn up for him to get in the corner. He said, nah, screw it. He runs around the 3-point line, turns around. 3-point jumper.
Right?
Yeah, outside the 3.
Yeah.
Hits it. Bank shot. Like, Huge game winner. Biggest shot of Derek Rose's career.
Yeah.
Biggest individual shot. It's not a peak Derek Rose, but this is the biggest shot of his career.
No, because I agree. Because you look at the chance that they have, they get through this series. There's no way that Atlanta or Washington can beat Chicago.
No way. This is the biggest opponent they'll face before they go to the finals.
Right. So that is a huge shot. And
it is huge. And then you look. LeBron didn't play amazing in Game 3, and Kyrie played even worse. Like, Kyrie stunk it up that game.
Honestly, I never really believed in Kyrie Irving.
You don't believe in young players, do you, Marcelo?
No, because, I mean, there's a few players in the league that are so hyped up by the media, and you see how well they play. You know, Kyrie Irving finishing is one of the most beautiful things you'll ever see in sports. How he gets around.
And it's a lot of these sort of SportsCenter highlight players, in my opinion, that get hyped up a lot. The ones that do provide the highlight reels, the crazy crossovers, the insane moves, like the crazy dunks, they get hyped up a lot.
Yeah, and we talked about Kevin Love last week, and you're seeing the effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, they were... say what you want about what Kevin Love was doing for the Cavs this season. They were a much, much better team with him on the floor. I think LeBron was the only other outlier that had more effect on how the Cavs played. Yeah. With or without
You look
him.
at the rebound numbers that Kevin Love was putting up as well. So not
still
only that's
10
not
rebounds
there.
a game with Mozgov still ahead of him close to the post.
Yeah, but so you've just got Mozgov in there. You've got Tristan Thompson.
Who I still think is a great rebounder, but he doesn't space the floor as much.
No, so suddenly you're expecting LeBron to do a lot by himself when Kyrie's off form.
Yeah.
Right. So when Kyrie's cold, it's all on LeBron. Because the others can't really create shots. I mean, I believe in Amon Shumpert, I believe in J.R. Smith, but those guys are
But how great was LeBron's press conference after the match?
I mean, he handled that. That was probably one of the best handling of a question I've ever heard.
So we'll just go to a quick soundbite of it here. Just sort of the answer LeBron gives, very professional.
Yeah.
Early in November, it was a game in Utah, tight game. Kyrie had 34 points, but he had no assists. And you let him know that that's just not acceptable. Tonight, again, he had no assists. Does he get a pass, though, for tonight because of the circumstances? Or
don't none of us get a pass tonight. It's not just Kyrie. Kyrie could have had 40 assists, but if D-Rose still make that shot, we still lose. So it's not about Kyrie. It's not about LeBron. It's not about Tristan and all the way down the line. None of us get a pass tonight. We have to be better. I have to be better. I had 7 turnovers tonight. If I have 4, then we don't put ourselves in that position. I also shot 8 for 25 from the field. Maybe if I'm 11 for 25, we put ourselves in a better position. I also shot 1 for 7 from the three-point line. And I only had 1 steal. It ain't about Kyrie. You put it on me. It's not about Kyrie. Kyrie gonna be great. And, for the rest of us, we just have to pick each other up. It's never a one-man show.
So you saw that, you saw Kyrie, his reaction to it was pretty funny because you saw the reporter
just
was
shaking his head like he didn't think LeBron was going to throw him under the bus, and he didn't.
No.
LeBron, that's hugely professional, and we have a lot of respect for LeBron on this podcast.
But you have seen LeBron in the past throw his teammates under the bus.
Yeah.
You have seen that a few times, and LeBron has he's one of the more outspoken athletes we've ever covered. But
you got to respect how real he is about everything.
Yeah, so that's what we like. But he handled this situation really well. I mean, coming back to the game, what do you reckon? I had Chicago coming through. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so how does this finish?
I think Bulls will try and kill it off in 6. They'll try to. I'm not saying necessarily it's going to happen, but they have another game coming at home. Curry and LeBron are going to respond, but it's about how the Bulls handle it on defense. I think we need a little bit more from Butler than what we've seen. I think we need a bit more from Noah, especially too.
Butler's been playing better though.
He has been playing better.
He's played like
wonderful defense on LeBron. He's played wonderful defense on LeBron so far.
Yeah.
Bulls are trying to kill this off in Game 6 at home because they do not want a game in Cleveland for Game 7.
No, you don't.
So I'm going to pick Bulls in 6.
Okay.
That's not bashing down the Cavaliers as being less dominant than I thought they were.
But they are less dominant though.
But
come out and say it, Nate.
I just mean it in terms of the Bulls will try and kill this off at home.
Yeah.
They'll get one more win, either in Game 4 or Game 5. They'll be in the position to take this out, and they will take it out in Game 6.
All right, I agree with you. 6 games. Chicago Bulls are going to the finals.
As much as we love Game 7s, I would be very nervous if this went to
No, you know what?
games.
If this went to 7 games, I couldn't see Cleveland pulling through.
Yeah, because how many Game 7s has LeBron played in?
Probably
more than everyone else on both rosters combined.
No. I'm saying Chicago would win Game 7.
Game 7?
Yeah, I couldn't see it because you think about it. How well would LeBron have to play to take this to Game 7? The fatigue. Kyrie would have to play hot for like 3 games.
As a Bulls player, you'd love that buffer more. You'd love to have the chance to kill it off in Game 6.
Oh, I know. But what I'm saying is, even in Game 7, I couldn't see Cleveland come through.
Okay.
I believe in Chicago. I honestly do. I think
Shut
Joakim Noah's
I think we're finally
more,
on the same level that we both believe in Chicago a lot. Like,
I don't know. I think you're still a bit.
I'm still a bit of.
I really, really, really like Chicago. They have a huge
and now
shot.
you see the weakness in the Warriors, and you see the weakness in Houston. You see the weakness in like a lot of those West teams. No team is safe anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's the brilliant thing about this second round, because a lot of teams looked pretty. You couldn't really dent what they were doing going out of the first round.
Yeah.
You see the second round now. Both races are wide open, man.
Yeah, I think the only one that we were sure about was Atlanta. We both didn't believe in Atlanta in the second round.
Not necessarily. Like I thought Atlanta would pick it up a lot. Let's move over to that Atlanta-Washington series.
Okay.
Are we ready to speak the truth, Marcelo?
Paul Pierce, he's your man.
Another bank shot to add to the bank shot weekend.
Right.
Look, it was a huge shot from Paul Pierce. We know he's taken them. He's taken them in these playoffs.
Yep.
He's taken them up before. He's a Hall of Famer, first ballot.
Yes.
And he's probably adjusted to the mentor role on a playoff team more well than a lot of players I've seen probably ever.
Right. And you think about it, John Wall's out.
Exactly.
It's with a wrist injury, so
a lot of people like Atlanta's got this. John Wall's out. Wizards are a much worse team without John Wall.
Right, Bradley Beal hasn't been playing well.
The Wizards are a much worse team without John Wall. Because
Yes.
John Wall is one of the best point guards in the league.
Yes.
Crazy the amounts of... I think he gets... through the playoffs so far, before he went out, he was getting 30 points per game off his assists, which was, I think, double what anyone else was getting.
Yeah, he's one of the most fouled players in the league, too, when he gets to the cup.
Exactly. Like, he's just go. He's what...
Yeah.
And he's still young, so there's a lot of potential for improvement. But without him, the Wizards look a bit weaker, a lot weaker.
Right.
But Paul Pierce, Otto Porter Jr.,
Yeah, playing well.
Marcin Gortat, like those guys on the next level down are all stepping up.
And you expect that from them because
Yeah.
they've been in situations like this with other teams,
And they're
especially Gortat.
currently undefeated at home in the playoffs, 3-0. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in Game 4. So a lot of big, crucial Game 4s coming out in every series.
Yeah. So who do
yeah.
you have in this one?
I still see Atlanta coming out in 7.
In 7?
In
Right,
7.
okay.
Look, obviously the Wizards look like a better team. It's 2-1. Budenholzer is Coach of the Year. I think that's for a very good reason. He draws up plays very well. Guys just haven't been hitting their shots in Atlanta, in my opinion. Like, you're watching guys like Kyle Korver just has not been there in the playoffs.
I called it, man.
You do not rate Jeff Teague at all. I think he'll come up big in Game 4 and beyond.
Okay.
I don't see them getting out of the conference final. I think whoever wins out of the Chicago-Cleveland series, you can book your ticket to the finals now.
Yep.
Any fans of those teams, like if you're living there, just buy your tickets now for the finals.
Yeah.
But out of this team, like neither of them look particularly strong. I think it'll be very interesting to see if the Wizards get out, because if they get out, you got Paul Pierce, who's been to the finals before, been in these big game situations before. Maybe John Wall's injury isn't as bad as we think it is.
I think it is. I think it
I
does
think he's
seem
out
pretty bad.
It seems like he's out for the season.
Yeah.
A lot of talk about broken and hand fractures, everything like that.
It's not good.
That team, even if they get out of this series, they cannot maintain a push to the finals without John Wall.
But you always want to get as far as you can,
Yeah.
right? And
So-
I disagree with you, though. I think Washington's got this in 6.
Okay.
So Washington will win the next game, take it to 3-1. Atlanta wins the next, and then they win 4-2.
Okay, so some 6 and 7 game series, so plenty of good watching out in the NBA coming up.
But like you said, whoever comes out of Chicago, Cleveland goes to the finals. It's a done deal.
Oh, for sure. So I think we'll move on to our question of the week, Marcelo.
Right. So
we're going to
staying
stick
with
in basketball.
Yep.
It's a pretty dodgy topic at the moment because this was coming out recently in news. There's a lot of debates between the commissioner, Adam Silver, and the leader of the Players Association. And there's a few demands coming up. Obviously, we have the impending negotiation in a few years, and that hopefully doesn't result in another lockout.
I don't think so. You know what?
I think they're smarter. They won't do it again.
Yeah.
But one of the key things on the table, especially now that we're past March Madness and all the NCAA for the year, Do you think college athletes, especially NBA players, as we'll stay with that as our main topics, should be under the current system of one and done? You do 1 year in college, then you're eligible to go play in the NBA. Do you think that's a good system? Should they be able to come straight out of high school again? Or should they have to stay longer in college? What's your opinion?
Okay, so let's just drop some knowledge first, okay? Because if you are a good player in high school, okay, if you have potential to make it into the NBA, you are going to get some kind of scholarship.
Exactly.
Okay, from a small college team or from a big college team, whether it be Kentucky, Kansas State, Michigan State,
because the recruiting process over there is thorough now. It's if
so
you're a good player, if you're putting up numbers, they know about you.
Yeah.
They know about you in the US.
And if you're a good player in high school, you're destroying.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's a hell of a lot of good players in high school and there's a lot of great players in high school as well. So you're going to be putting up your numbers. You're going to get scholarships, okay? So we've established that every good player with a chance to get into the NBA will have a scholarship offer.
Exactly. Okay. So it's not necessarily you won't have the opportunity to go to college.
So there is no problem with going to college. You can go if you want and you're good enough, okay? As for staying there, there's two sides to it. Okay?
It is a very two-sided topic, and you've got to look at the perspective from the colleges, the NBA, and also the players themselves and their families and everything like that.
Okay. Honestly, I've thought about this for a long time, and I felt strongly about keeping players in college for at least one season like we do now, or at least two, simply because I feel like education is such a huge thing.
And a lot of these players come in with the mindset that they're going to make it in the NBA, they're going to make it in the NBA.
Yeah.
And they're very focused on that, so like, one and done, I'm out, I'm going to the NBA.
Right.
And the thing is, for a lot of rookies going into the NBA, everyone has the dream that they're going to be the next Steph Curry, the next LeBron James, the next Kevin Durant. A lot of these players are going to go in and be role players. Maybe that's the best case for a lot of them.
You're saying out of high school?
No, I mean out of college.
Right.
A lot of these players are going to be role players.
Right.
And they need to adjust to that.
Okay, but even like just making the league is a huge achievement.
Yeah, exactly.
But you think about it, if you're in college for a mandatory 2 years, okay?
Yep.
So you're playing as well as you can because you want to get high pick and draft.
So then you're basically 20, 21 years old when you're coming out of college.
Yep.
And have the prospect of being drafted in the NBA.
Yep. Okay, so what do you have? You have half a degree, if that. Okay, now, okay, to their credit, college programs do have a strict set of rules. You do have to pass your classes to stay in the program, okay?
Definitely.
Now, the classes that you pass could be jokes, okay? So we've heard all about, like, courses in golf swings. Courses in they're jokes that they're set up for athletes so that they don't waste too much time in the classroom.
Exactly.
They spend most of the time in the basketball court. And my thing is, the colleges make so much money out of these players that they should be
like, if you look at exploitation in the dictionary, the NCAA is going to be somewhere on that page.
Right.
Like,
and for me, you either have to let college players get paid somehow, like maybe for me, maybe set up a savings fund. So, like, a percentage of all the merchandise sales, all the ticket sales go to a certain player.
And it's a raw how much money these colleges make off these players.
They're billion-dollar programs, okay?
But
billion-dollar universities, and it's ridiculous how much money they make.
There's no money coming back to the players. A lot of these players are living on or maybe even below the poverty line.
Right.
Because they're students. Like, and a lot of the people that listen to this podcast would be university students. They'd have to live.
Like, we know how hard we do it.
These are the same sort of people living across the world, but they're playing on billion-dollar, like, they're playing in March Madness, they're playing it on the NCAA final. Like,
right. I mean, just because they're on camera, it doesn't make them any different to us. You know,
exactly.
they could have come from the worst background, the poorest background ever, and just because they're on camera doesn't make
job. They're spending a lot of time on the basketball court.
Exactly, right? You don't hear any of these guys having a part-time job or anything like that. These guys are dedicated to basketball because they want to make it to the next level. Now, you think about it. Kobe Bryant came out of high school from Italy. LeBron James came out of high school.
Dwight Howard.
So all these great players came out of high school, and there's Kobe Bryant, for me, I don't know if you agree with me, is one of the top 5 players ever. That's a discussion for another day.
I know I might get a bit of hate for this, but I have to hesitate when I classify Kobe as a top 5 ever.
That is the most disrespectful thing, but okay.
Top 10? Yes, no doubt.
He's top 5. Okay, moving on.
Move on.
Because we're talking about NCAA.
We'll talk about that another week. In my opinion, like, you see a lot of great players, a lot of educated players, a lot of smart players coming out who stayed a lot longer in high school than just being one and done, or just one and done in college, or just coming straight out of high school. You see Michael Jordan, obviously it was very different in the 80s.
Yeah.
But you see Michael Jordan stayed 3 years.
At North Carolina, yeah.
At North Carolina. You see at Wake Forest State, you have Tim Duncan. He completed his degree. He came out as a senior.
Right.
You have Damian Lillard, who spent 4 years at school and recently finished getting his degree, just doing it part-time.
Yeah. And we love to see that.
And we love to see players who get their degrees because it means they're smart. They know there's a future after basketball.
But that doesn't make them better than the high school players or the
But I'm
college
just saying
players that only stay 2 years.
You have Rookie of the Year, Damian Lillard. You have Rookie of the Year, Tim Duncan. You have Rookie of the Year, Michael Jordan. A lot of these players make a bigger impact when they've been through these NCAA programs because they've played on that sort of stage
I don't
constantly.
disagree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bigger impact coming out of college because you're playing against better players.
Exactly.
But at the same time,
You're losing earning potential as well from a player
Right.
perspective. 3 more years you spend in school is on a rookie. Let's say you're a lottery pick.
yeah,
That's maybe just a base contract. That's maybe 6 to 10 million that you're giving up.
Yeah.
Out of rookie contract.
Right.
And we've seen from the way organizations draft now, they like younger players more. They will like that 19-year-old with sky-high potential more
Right.
than the senior coming out who's had 4 years of NCAA under his belt.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, he's older. He's going to have less time with us. There's less potential because he might have developed further as a basketball player.
right. And like, if I'm LeBron James and I have the option to go to college or to get paid, and I know I'm the number one pick because I know I'm the best player.
But it's
in
a
the
very different thing being Anthony Davis or LeBron James and all that sort of stuff where you...
No, but we're
know
talking
yours-
about great players,
Exactly.
right? Because there's a bunch of good players that they don't know, so they'll take what they can
And there's
get.
so much other factors when there is that uncertainty of, will I be a second round pick? Will I even make it in the draft?
Right, so coming out of high school, if you've got that option, for me, there's 2 reasons why you go into the draft, okay? One being the money, all right? Okay, sorry, 3 reasons. One being the money, which, okay, you get paid.
Yeah.
You get paid for what you love to do. The second is the sport, right? You're going into the best league in the world in basketball.
And everyone who goes into the NBA grows up as a fan of the NBA.
Exactly. And the third reason, if you go to college and play a year or 2 years, how do you know you're going to be good, for one, okay? And how do you know you're not going to get injured?
Exactly.
If you get injured in your
Your
first
draft stock
year of
is
college,
just...
you lose millions of dollars.
Exactly.
Imagine you tear your ACL in the first year, and then you play in the second year, you're not as good. Suddenly, you don't even get picked in the draft. And you were the best high school prospect. We've seen that a few times.
Exactly.
So, honestly, unfortunately, it is a money thing.
Yeah.
But
As a lot of things in sport are.
exactly, but the athletes need to get paid. There has to be some kind of system for them to get paid, even if it is a savings fund and they
Because
only
you
get
look
it
from a
after they
personal
leave.
perspective, yeah, that's that risk of you might not be as good of a player going into college, everything like that. But then you weigh out the money decisions, the advertising
Right.
decisions, everything else. It just starts to pale in comparison until the NCAA can do something about the student-athlete exploitation that is shamelessly going on.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't even think they'll do anything about that. It's got to be...
They like the system. The NCAA
They
likes
love
the
the
system.
system. And I feel like the colleges love it just as much because they're making so much money off them. It's hard because you want to see the athletes get a tertiary education, but for me, you need to position the athletes in a position. You have to let them be successful in what they choose to be.
Exactly, that's very right. I think we'll move on to our last analyst of the week.
Let's move on. Let's move on. You want to go first?
No, of course you can go first this week, Marcelo.
All right. So my end one this week is Tom Brady and Deflategate. Right now, this has been
I even heard about this.
okay. So this has been all over the news. I just wanted to touch on it quickly. I don't want to just repeat what the media's saying, but for me, Tom Brady, what was seen in the Wells report, it did strike me as a bit funny, like the way it was put out. I think Tom Brady is somewhat guilty of knowing about the deflation of the balls.
Yeah.
And the ball boys knew how Tom Brady wants it. Is that his fault that they deflated it? Maybe. Because you see how Tom Brady is as a person. He's so active and he'll get in your face if something's wrong, if he doesn't like what you're doing. Okay, so he wants things done his way. So if he gets suspended for 3 to 4 games, I can see that being a reasonable punishment. But you know what? no one could have done that. Like, no other player in the league could have done what he did in the Super Bowl with any type of football. What he did in the Super Bowl, what he's done all his career is amazing. To me, he's the greatest quarterback of all time, and hence the greatest player of all time. So, when you talk about the deflation of a football being the reason that they won these games, that is so disrespectful to the greatness of Tom Brady and the greatness of the Patriots as well. So for me, yes, he should be suspended maybe 2 games, 3 or 4 games. It doesn't really matter.
Because there's no hard evidence through trial on the table.
Exactly,
well. And when you look into stuff like that, that can be a very long process when you're looking at. Because if necessarily he did break the rules and there was some collusion under the table, that sort of stuff, this Deflategate, do you give 3-4 game suspension for what is in essence cheating?
Right.
When for just an unnecessary hit in a game, you'd give the same amount of time.
Yeah, and I mean the worst thing is that obviously the Patriots have a history of cheating with Spygate. So it is a bit iffy. Maybe Bill Belichick should be suspended. We're not sure what's going to happen with the league, but taking away from the greatness of Tom Brady is just wrong.
It's disrespectful.
He could have done it with a tennis ball. He could have done it with a cricket ball.
Exactly.
He is that great. Okay. Well, that's me for this week for my end one. What's yours, Nate?
Mine's just going to be a quick one, just a reference to our very big anniversary in some playoffs history.
Okay.
This week is the anniversary, 26 years of The Shot. If people don't know what The Shot is, Michael Jordan over Craig Eglow kicks his legs out under him to get the series. I recommend everyone watch it in honor of the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan. And also 20 years of, if you listen to the theme of our show, Reggie Miller steals the ball, retreats by the 3-point line, and hits again. 20 years since
One of the best shots against my Knicks.
And I'd just like to throw out a little theory myself.
What's that?
Michael Jordan was 26 years old when he hit that shot.
Okay.
Derrick Rose was 26 years old when he hit that shot. Like this week, it's been 26 years since that shot was hit.
Okay.
I don't want to throw anything out, but you know what to do.
Hey man, that sound effect is going.
So I think with that conspiracy theory, we're going to finish up No Regard for this week.
All right.
I'm Nathan Blakely.
I'm Marcelo Lucha.
And thank you for listening to the No Regard podcast.
Thanks, guys.